Let's begin by letting go of the day you have just lived. It is over now. It is a closed book, placed high upon a shelf, out of reach and out of mind. There is nothing left for you to solve. There is nothing left for you to organize. There is only this moment, and the gentle, rhythmic rise and fall of your own chest. Take a slow, deep breath in, feeling your lungs expand completely. And as you exhale, imagine all the tension, all the little worries from your day, just melting away. Let them go. With each breath out, you release a little more. You become a little lighter. The conversations you had, the tasks you completed, the places you went, they are all part of the past now. Picture them as scenes in a movie that has already ended. The credits have rolled, and the screen is now dark. There is no need to replay any of it. There is no need to analyze or critique your performance. You did your best, and that is more than enough. Now, bring your awareness fully into this space, right here, right now. Feel the surface beneath you, supporting you completely. Notice the temperature of the air on your skin. Listen to the quiet sounds around you, or perhaps the stillness itself. This present moment is a gift. It is a sanctuary where you can rest, recharge, and simply be. Shift your focus to your breathing. Don't try to change it, just observe it. The natural, effortless rhythm, in and out, in and out. This simple act of breathing is your anchor to the now. It is a constant, steady presence that reminds you that you are safe, you are at peace. Imagine a soft, warm light beginning to glow in the center of your chest. With every inhale, this light grows a little brighter, a little warmer. Feel it expanding, spreading its gentle warmth throughout your body, down into your stomach, through your hips, and all the way down your legs to the very tips of your toes. Feel it move up through your shoulders, down your arms to your fingertips, and feel it flow up your neck, into your head, softening your jaw, your cheeks, and the tiny muscles around your eyes. This warm, peaceful light dissolves any remaining pockets of tension. It soothes every muscle, every cell. You are filled with a sense of profound calm and tranquility. The day is behind you. It is a story that has been told. The future is not yet here. It is a story yet to be written. All that exists is this gentle, peaceful now. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to be. Just rest. Allow yourself to be held by this moment. Allow your mind to become as still and clear as a calm mountain lake. The thoughts may come and go, like ripples on the water's surface, but you are the deep, still water beneath. Unmoved, untroubled, continue to breathe. Softly, gently, with each breath, you drift deeper and deeper into a state of complete relaxation. You are letting go. You are finding peace. You are home, within yourself. Rest now. You deserve this peace. You deserve this rest. If you found this moment of peace helpful, I hope you'll join me again. Thank you for taking this time for yourself. Imagine, if you will, that you are no longer in your room. You are drifting backward through time, floating on a river of mist. You find yourself standing before a heavy, wooden door, bound in iron. It is old, weathered, and solid. You push it open, and it swings inward with a low, heavy creak that is strangely satisfying. Beyond the door, there's no grand hall or treasure room. Instead, you step into a small, circular library. Bookshelves stretch from the floor to the high domed ceiling, packed with volumes of all shapes and sizes. The air smells of old paper, leather, and something else. Something like rain on dry earth. A soft, warm light glows from an unseen source, making the dust motes dance in the air like tiny, golden stars. This isn't just any library. This is the library of your own mind. Each book on these shelves represents a memory, a skill, a thought you once had. Look, over there. See that thin, brightly colored book? That's the memory of your first time riding a bike, the scraped knee, the thrill of finally balancing. And that thick, leather-bound tome next to it, that's all the knowledge you gathered learning a new language. Every verb, conjugation, and vocabulary word carefully stored away. Some books are pristine, their pages crisp. These are the memories you visit often, the stories you tell yourself and others. But some Some are covered in a thick layer of dust, their titles faded and unreadable. These are the forgotten moments, the skills you let atrophy, the ideas that were never given a chance to grow. You run your fingers along the spines. You feel a pull towards a particularly dusty, forgotten corner. Tucked away behind a stack of more prominent books is a small, simple volume. You gently pull it out and blow the dust from its cover. The title is faint, but you can just make it out. The Things I Used to Love. With a sense of gentle curiosity, you open it. The pages are filled with faded sketches of spaceships, half-finished stories about dragons, and pressed flowers from a walk you took years ago. You remember the pure joy you felt while drawing, the excitement that sparked in your chest as you imagined fantastical worlds. Where did that joy go? It didn't vanish. It was just shelved, put away to make room for more important things, for responsibilities and routines. As you stand there, holding this forgotten piece of yourself, you realize this library isn't just a storage unit. It's a living, breathing space. And you are its librarian. You have the power to decide which books to pull from the shelves, which stories to bring back into the light. You can dust off that old passion for painting, revisit that desire to learn the guitar, or finish that story you started writing a decade ago. It's never too late. The knowledge, the passion, it's all still here, waiting patiently on the shelf. Now, look around you again. The library seems brighter, more welcoming. You notice empty spaces on the shelves, waiting for new books to be written. Every new experience, every new skill you learn, every new idea you explore, creates a new volume in this personal collection. What will your next book be about? Will it be a grand adventure, a quiet study of a new subject, or a colorful book of artistic expression? The choice is entirely yours. You are the author and the librarian of your own incredible story. You close the book of forgotten loves, but you don't put it back in the dusty corner. You hold it close, a promise to yourself to revisit its pages soon. As you turn to leave, the heavy wooden door stands open, leading not back to the river of mist, but forward into the bright potential of your day. You step through, carrying the scent of old paper and the weight of a rediscovered passion. The library is always here, within you, waiting for your return. What will you bring back to add to its shelves? Thank you for joining me on this journey. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing for more explorations of the mind. Until next time, keep writing your story. Welcome, and find a comfortable place to rest. Let's take a journey together, a quiet moment just for you. Imagine you're in a room, warm and still. The only light comes from a crackling fire in the hearth, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. Before you, on a heavy oak desk, lies a book. It's a magnificent volume, large and bound in dark, worn leather. The cover is smooth under your fingertips, cool to the touch. The book is open. Its pages are not crisp, white paper, but thick, creamy parchment, made from sheepskin long ago, smoothed and dried with care. You can see the faint, unique texture of each page, a testament to the hands that crafted it. The edges are soft and slightly frayed from centuries of turning. As you lean closer, a unique scent rises to greet you. It's the fragrance of old ink, a slightly sharp, earthy smell that speaks of handwritten words and stories captured in time. Mingled with it is the soft, dry scent of dust, not the unpleasant kind, but the quiet dust of libraries and forgotten attics, the dust of ages. And underneath it all, there's the faint, sweet, and almost leathery smell of the parchment itself. It's the scent of history, of stillness, of countless hours spent in quiet contemplation. The air in the room is calm. So calm, in fact, that you can see tiny motes of dust suspended in the beam of firelight that falls across the desk. They drift and dance in slow, lazy circles, swirling in invisible currents of air. Each one glints like a tiny star for a moment as it passes through the light, a miniature galaxy in the quiet of the room. Watching them is mesmerizing, a slow, silent ballet that pulls your focus and quiets your mind. Your breathing begins to slow, deepening with the rhythm of the crackling fire. You can hear the gentle hiss and pop of the logs as they burn, a steady, comforting sound. Each crackle is a small punctuation mark in the profound silence of the room. The warmth from the hearth wraps around you like a soft, heavy blanket, chasing away any chill and soothing your muscles. You can feel the tension in your shoulders and neck begin to melt away, releasing its hold. Your gaze drifts back to the open book. The script on the page is elegant, a flowing calligraphy written with a quill pen. The ink is faded from a deep black to a soft, brownish gray. You don't try to read the words. Their meaning isn't important right now. Instead, you just appreciate their form, the beautiful curves and lines that make up each letter. The page is a work of art, a silent story that asks for nothing but your quiet presence. As you sit in this stillness, surrounded by the warmth of the fire, the scent of old things, and the gentle dance of dust, you feel a pleasant weight settling over you. Your eyelids feel heavier. The world outside this room, with all its noise and rush, fades away until it's just a distant memory. Here, there is only peace. Here, there is only rest. The pull of sleep is a gentle tide, washing over you, inviting you to let go. The flickering firelight makes the shadows on the walls sway back and forth, like they're breathing with you, in and out. The room feels safe, protected, a sanctuary from everything else. The large, dusty book remains open, a silent guardian of your rest. It has waited here for a very long time, and it will be here when you wake. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to be. Just allow yourself to drift on this current of peace. Feel the weight of your body sinking comfortably into your chair, supported and secure. Let your eyes close whenever they feel ready. The dancing dust, the crackling fire, and the ancient book will watch over you as you drift into a deep and restorative sleep. Thank you for sharing this quiet moment. Rest well. When we think of the Middle Ages, what comes to mind? Maybe it's knights in shining armor, rowdy taverns filled with ale, or extravagant feasts in a king's court. While those things certainly existed, for the vast majority of people, the peasants, the farmers, the everyday folk, life was a completely different story. It was a world governed not by swords and crowns, but by two simple, powerful forces: the ringing of church bells and the changing of the seasons. Forget what you've seen in movies. The average medieval person's life wasn't a constant, chaotic adventure. It was a cycle, a rhythm, dictated by nature and faith. Imagine waking up not to an alarm clock, but to the first peal of the church bell calling the faithful to morning prayers. This sound, the Angelus, would echo across the fields 3 times a day, morning, noon, and evening, marking the hours and reminding everyone of their spiritual duties. It was the universal clock, the shared pulse of every village. Your workday didn't end at 5 p.m. It ended when the evening bell rang or when the sun dipped below the horizon, making it too dark to see. This life was deeply connected to the earth. Spring wasn't just a season. It was the frantic time of plowing and sowing. The entire community would be out in the fields, working from sunrise to sunset, because a successful planting meant survival through the next winter. Men would guide heavy wooden plows, often pulled by oxen, while women and children followed behind, breaking up clumps of dirt and planting seeds by hand. It was backbreaking labor, but it was done together. Then came summer, a time of anxious waiting and constant weeding. People would tend their precious crops, protecting them from pests and praying for the right amount of rain. Not too much, not too little. Summer also brought feast days, holy days that provided a much-needed break from the relentless work. These weren't wild parties, but community gatherings. People would attend a special church service, then share food, play simple games, listen to traveling musicians, and just enjoy a rare day of rest. It was a chance to strengthen community bonds before the hardest work began. Autumn was the season of harvest, the most critical time of the year. Every able-bodied person was needed in the fields to bring in the crops. Grains like wheat and barley were cut with scythes and sickles, bundled up, and brought to the Lord's barn for threshing. The success of the harvest determined everything. A bountiful harvest meant there would be enough food to pay the Lord's taxes, store for the winter, and have seed for the next year. A poor harvest could mean starvation. The pressure was immense, but so was the relief when the granaries were finally full. And then came winter. With the fields frozen and the days short, the pace of life slowed down dramatically. This was a time for indoor work. Men would repair tools, chop firewood, and mend fences. Women would spin wool into thread, weave cloth, and preserve food. It was also a time for storytelling. Families would huddle around the hearth fire, sharing folk tales, legends, and ghost stories to pass the long, dark nights. Winter was a time of hardship and cold, but it was also a time of family, community, and quiet reflection, waiting for the spring thaw to begin the cycle all over again. So, the next time you picture the Middle Ages, look past the castles and battles. Think of the farmer in the field, listening for the church bell. It might not be as glamorous as the legends, but it's a far more real and, in many ways, a more fascinating story. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this glimpse into medieval life interesting, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more journeys into the past. See you next time. Have you ever wondered where our modern ideas about marriage come from? No, I'm not talking about your grandparents' love story or that rom-com you watched last weekend. We need to go way, way back to the 12th century. Picture this: candlelight flickering, the smell of old parchment, and the constant, rhythmic sound of a quill scratching against rough paper. Scritch, scratch. That sound belongs to a man named Gratian. He was an Italian jurist, a legal scholar, and he was compiling what would become one of the most influential legal textbooks in history, the Decretum Gratiani, or Gratian's Decretum now. Gratian wasn't a poet or a romantic. He wasn't writing love songs. He was concerned with definitions, rules, and bringing order to the chaos of medieval law. And one of the biggest legal messes he had to clean up was the definition of marriage. At the time, there were two competing ideas about what actually made a marriage valid. On one side, you had the Parisian school of thought. They argued that a marriage wasn't real until it was, well, consummated. It was the physical act that sealed the deal. On the other side, you had the Bologna school, Gratian's home turf. They believed that what truly mattered was consent, the free and willing agreement between two people to be married. So, you have this major legal showdown: physical act versus mutual consent. What's a jurist to do? Gratian, being the brilliant synthesizer he was, decided to merge the two ideas. He proposed a two-step process. First, you have the consent, the promise for the future. He called this asterisk matrimonium, initiatum, asterisk, the initiated marriage. This was the engagement, the I will. But the marriage wasn't complete. It wasn't perfect until the second step, the consummation. He called this asterisk matrimonium, ratum asterisk, the ratified and perfected marriage. So, for Gratian, a marriage began with consent, but was only truly unbreakable after the physical union. This elegant solution was revolutionary. It honored both the spiritual and personal commitment of consent and the physical reality of the union. It brought clarity to a murky area of law and society. Gratian's work became the foundation of the Catholic Church's canon law on marriage for the next 800 years. Think about that, 8 centuries. His ideas spread across Europe, shaping how courts, kings, and common people understood the institution of marriage. But the story doesn't end there. By the late 12th century, a pope named Alexander III came along and tweaked Gratian's formula. He declared that consent alone, the I do in the present tense, was sufficient to create a valid, unbreakable marriage. Consummation wasn't strictly necessary for validity anymore, though it was still seen as the expected fulfillment of the marriage. This is the direct ancestor of the marriage vows we know today. So, next time you attend a wedding and hear the couple say, I do, remember the long journey those two little words have taken. They echo through history, from the dusty manuscripts of 12th century Italy, through the legal debates of Paris and Bologna, all the way to the present day. It's a journey that started with a scholar named Gratian, listening to the scratch of his quill on paper, trying to answer a simple, yet profound question. What makes a marriage? And in finding that answer, he didn't just write a law book. He helped write the script for how we understand love, commitment, and partnership even now, centuries later. It just goes to show that history isn't just about battles and kings. It's about the ideas that shape our everyday lives. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this journey into legal history fascinating, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories behind our world. Welcome. Come in from the world. Step inside this quiet space I have prepared for you. Feel the stillness settle around you like a soft, heavy blanket. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to be. Run a hand over their surface in your mind. Feel the cool, solid texture. And now, they offer that same strength and peace to you. You are protected here. You are completely safe. It's a gentle, healing warmth, chasing away any lingering chill, any remaining stress. This tower room is your sanctuary. It exists outside of time, beyond your worries and your to-do lists. It is a space purely for rest, for renewal. The strength of the stone, the steadiness of the fire, the peace of the night sky, they are all here for you. You can return to this place in your mind whenever you need to find stillness. It will always be here, waiting for you. Stay here for as long as you like, wrapped in the quiet and the warmth. There is no hurry. Let the gentle crackling of the fire and the slow pulse of the embers be your guide. The world outside is painted in shades of gray as a gentle rain begins to fall. Listen to the sound it makes against a small, leaded glass window pane. Tap, tap, tap. It's a rhythmic, hypnotic percussion, a soft and steady drum beat, played just for you. Each drop is a tiny note in a lullaby composed by the clouds. Let your eyes drift closed, but you can still picture the scene. The warmth from the blanket seeps deep into your muscles, encouraging them to release any lingering tightness. You are drifting now, in that beautiful, hazy space between wakefulness and sleep. The rhythmic tapping on the window is the only thing that tethers you to the room, a gentle anchor in a sea of tranquility. Let the sound guide you deeper into rest. There is no past, no future, only the soft, persistent present. The rain continues to fall, a promise of renewal and growth. You deserve this peace. Just listen. Tap, tap, tap. Ever wondered what love, marriage, and intimacy were really asterisk-like in the Middle Ages? Forget the fairy tales and Hollywood romances for a moment. Our story today sails not on a turbulent ocean of passion, but on the calm, sometimes murky waters of history. We're drifting back to the years between the 11th and 14th centuries to uncover a subject often shrouded in myth. Consent was a flexible concept. A young noblewoman might meet her husband for the first time on their wedding day. It sounds cold, but this was the high-stakes world they lived in. The future of a dynasty could rest on a single marriage contract. Here, the picture gets a bit warmer. While parents still had a big say, there was more room for personal choice. Young people met at village festivals, at church, or while working in the fields. It wasn't always the stuff of epic romance, but it was filled with the quiet, everyday drama of real lives. It shows us that no matter the era, the fundamental human need for companionship and love remains a constant. What part of medieval life should we explore next? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more journeys into the past. And where families were the basic unit of economic survival, having children wasn't just a personal choice, it was a necessity. It was about continuing the family line, ensuring there were hands to work the farm, and securing the future of the community. In this context, intimacy was seen as a functional, almost sacred duty. It was the good and proper way to build a family and a society. Many teachings emphasize that the procreative aspect was what made intimacy virtuous. It was the legitimate, sanctioned reason for it to happen within a marriage. Any other form of it was often looked upon with suspicion or even condemned. They were literally manufacturing the future, one baby at a time. It was a job, a vital one, and it was taken very, very seriously. Now, let's move on to the second major historical perspective on intimacy. And this one might feel even more foreign to our modern ears. It wasn't about spontaneous desire or romantic mood. It was a right and an obligation that came with the marriage contract. If your partner requested intimacy, you were expected to render the debt to fulfill your side of the bargain. This wasn't necessarily seen as a chore, but as a fundamental part of the marital agreement. It was about maintaining harmony and fairness within the relationship. This concept of debt sounds very transactional to us, doesn't it? But it served a specific social function. It was intended to ensure that neither spouse could unreasonably withhold themselves from the other, which was believed to prevent temptation and infidelity. The logic was that if needs were being met within the marriage, there would be no reason to look elsewhere. The Apostle Paul, in the New Testament, is one of the most famous sources for this idea, stating that a husband's body belongs to his wife, and a wife's body belongs to her husband. So, you had these two powerful forces shaping how people viewed intimacy for centuries: the vital duty of procreation and the binding obligation of marital debt. It was a world where intimacy was less about individual passion and more about function, duty, and social order. What do you think about these historical perspectives? It really puts our own views into a new light, doesn't it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time. Ever wonder how we decide what's right and what's wrong? Our modern ideas about morality, about sin, didn't just appear out of nowhere. They were forged in quiet, dusty places, through centuries of debate. Let's travel back in time, to a medieval monastery. Picture it. The air is thick with the scent of old parchment and incense. Sunlight streams through a high window, illuminating particles of dust dancing in the air. Monks, wrapped in their simple robes, are gathered, their faces etched with deep thought. Their topic is something far more human: pleasure. One monk, his voice a low rumble, poses the question: is the act of seeking pleasure for its own sake a sin? A younger monk, eager and sharp, argues that any turning away from God, even for a moment of simple enjoyment, is a step onto a dangerous path. But an older, wiser brother shakes his head slowly. He argues that God created a world full of senses, of delights. Was it truly a sin to appreciate them? Imagine the monks debating this, their voices low, the dust swirling around them. We instinctively feel it's a small fault, not a major moral failing. This is a direct echo of those monastic debates. The idea that some faults are minor, forgivable, and simply part of the human experience, while others are serious breaches of our moral code. These monks, in their quiet contemplation, were grappling with the very essence of what it means to be good. Their conclusions weren't just abstract theology. They were practical guides for living, creating a system that allowed for human frailty. It was a system built not just on judgment, but on understanding and the possibility of redemption. So, the next time you feel a pang of guilt over a small indulgence, remember those monks in the swirling dust. You're participating in a conversation that has spanned 1,000 years, a debate about grace, forgiveness, and the beautiful, complicated business of being human. Thanks for joining me on this journey back in time. If you enjoyed this, please like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the ideas that shaped our world. See you next time. Have you ever thought about how different life was in the Middle Ages? I'm not just talking about castles and knights. I mean the really personal stuff, the things that happened behind closed doors. We often imagine the past as either super romantic or incredibly harsh. But the reality is often much stranger and more complex than we think. Today, let us pull back the curtain on one of the most private aspects of medieval life, the bedroom. And you might be surprised to learn that for medieval people, the bedroom wasn't seen as a playground for passion. It was more like a courtroom, with a whole bunch of rules and regulations. Forget spontaneity. Forget doing what you feel. In the medieval world, your love life was governed by a calendar. A very, very strict calendar. The church had a huge say in what was considered acceptable, and it created a complex system of forbidden days. This wasn't just a suggestion. It was a deeply ingrained part of their worldview, tied to sin, penance, and salvation. People genuinely believed that breaking these rules could have serious spiritual consequences. So, when could you and couldn't you be intimate with your spouse? Let's dive into the specifics, because it gets pretty wild. First up, Sundays were a definite no-go. This was the Lord's Day, a day for rest, prayer, and worship. During these holy times, marital relations were strictly off limits. Some historians have estimated that couples were forbidden from being intimate for about a third of the year, and in some cases, even up to half the year. Plus, any day you had taken communion was also off limits. The idea was that you should remain in a state of spiritual purity after receiving the sacrament. It's fascinating, isn't it? We tend to think of our private lives as, well, private. But in the medieval world, faith and daily life were so intertwined that even the most intimate moments were subject to a kind of divine schedule. The bedroom was a space where your duty to God was just as important as your relationship with your spouse. This wasn't about the church trying to be a killjoy just for the sake of it. Let me know in the comments what you think about these medieval rules. See you in the next video. Have you ever thought about how different life was in the past? Not just with technology or medicine, but in the most personal aspects of life, like marriage. Today, we re-diving into a fascinating piece of history that might surprise you. The extensive religious rules that once governed when married couples could be intimate. But it didn't stop there. Wednesdays and Fridays were also restricted. Why those days? They were designated as days of penance and fasting, commemorating Judas's betrayal and the crucifixion of Christ. Engaging in physical pleasure on days meant for solemnity and self-denial was considered inappropriate. So right off the bat, that's 3 days of every week where intimacy was forbidden. Now, let's zoom out to the yearly calendar. The restrictions became even more significant. The biggest one was Lent. This is the 40-day period leading up to Easter, a time of profound fasting, prayer, and penance in the Christian tradition. Couples were expected to abstain completely as a form of spiritual discipline, mirroring the seriousness of the season. Following Lent, even the octave of Easter, the 8 days celebrating the resurrection, was sometimes included in this period of abstinence. But the restrictions didn't end with Easter. Advent, the 4-week season leading up to Christmas, was another major period of abstinence. It was meant to be a quiet, reflective period, and physical intimacy was thought to conflict with that spiritual focus. And it goes even deeper. Other holy days, known as feast days, scattered throughout the year also came with their own restrictions. Think of major saints' days or other significant events on the church calendar. Often, the night before and the day of the feast were times for abstinence. Then, there were personal circumstances. A woman was considered unclean during her menstrual cycle and for a period after giving birth, so intimacy was forbidden then as well. Furthermore, the 40 days before she was churched or blessed after childbirth was another period of abstinence. And if one was preparing to receive communion, they were expected to abstain the night before. When you add it all up, Sundays, Wednesdays, Fridays, the 40 days of Lent, the 4 weeks of Advent, plus various feast days, personal cycles, and other holy vigils, you start to realize just how many days on the calendar were restricted. Some historians have calculated that for a devout couple in the Middle Ages, this could amount to more than half the year. Imagine that. More than 180 days where intimacy was not permitted by the church. This system highlights a worldview where the spiritual life was intensely interwoven with every single aspect of daily existence, including the most private moments between a husband and wife. It was believed that this level of self-control and denial strengthened one's soul and brought them closer to God. While these rules may seem incredibly strict to us today, they were a very real part of life for millions of people for centuries. It's a powerful reminder of how much social and religious norms have evolved over time. What do you think about these historical rules? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you found this interesting, be sure to like and subscribe for more dives into history. See you next time. Ever wonder what dating and marriage were like in the Middle Ages? Forget swiping right and romantic getaways. For medieval couples, life in the bedroom was, well, complicated. It was less about personal desire and more about a very long list of rules set by the church. Seriously, it was like trying to assemble IKEA furniture in the dark with a rule book written in another language. First off, the main goal of marriage wasn't love or companionship, at least not in the way we think of it today. It was all about one thing: making more little Christians. Procreation was the name of the game. Anything else was seen as lustful and sinful. The church taught that even within marriage, enjoying the act too much was a one-way ticket to a very warm afterlife. Think of it like eating a delicious cake, but you're only allowed to do it for the nutrients, not for the taste. Enjoy the frosting. That's a sin. Then came the calendar of no-go days. And let me tell you, it was packed. You had Lent, the 40 days leading up to Easter, no intimacy allowed. Advent, the 4 weeks before Christmas, same deal. What about Pentecost, the 50 days after Easter? You guessed it, another period of abstinence. Add to that every Sunday, because it was the Lord's Day, and often Wednesdays and Fridays, which were days of penance. And we have uneven touched on the various saints' days and other holy festivals scattered throughout the year. It was a minefield of holy days. But wait, there's more. The list of restrictions didn't stop with the calendar. A woman's own natural cycles also played a huge part. Any intimacy was forbidden during her monthly period, during pregnancy, and for a significant time after childbirth, usually 40 days. The church believed these were times of ritual impurity, and breaking these rules was considered a serious offense against God. On top of all that, there were rules about when and how. Intimacy was supposed to happen only at night, in complete darkness, and with as little fanfare as possible. Certain positions were outlawed because they were deemed unnatural or too pleasurable. The so-called woman on top position was a huge no-no. Seen as appending the natural, God-given hierarchy of man over woman, couples were expected to stick to one specific position, famously called the matrimonial, which was believed to be the most effective for conception and the least likely to lead to sinful enjoyment. So, let's do the math. When you add up all the forbidden days, Sundays, Wednesdays, Fridays, Lent, Advent, Pentecost, Saints' days, plus personal times like pregnancy and postpartum recovery, what are you left with? Some historians estimate that a devout medieval couple might only have been able to be intimate for about 1/3 of the year, maybe even less. The rest of the year was spent in a state of quiet, shared abstinence, with the fear of eternal damnation hanging over their heads. Imagine the atmosphere in a small medieval village. These weren't just personal rules, they were community standards. Everyone knew the calendar. Confessors would ask very specific, very personal questions to make sure you were following the rules to the letter. There was no real privacy. Your spiritual life was, in many ways, public business. It's a world away from our modern ideas of love, privacy, and marriage. It really makes you appreciate the freedoms we have today, doesn't it? So next time you complain about modern dating, just remember, at least you don't need to check a liturgical calendar first. Thanks for watching. If you found this glimpse into the past as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. See you next time. It's the heavy, unyielding curtain of church law. We've often explored the spiritual and emotional lives of people in history, their beliefs, their prayers, their hopes for the afterlife. And the way it was understood and treated within these strict frameworks. This isn't just about theology. It's about medicine, biology, and the very real, physical experiences of men and women who lived under these powerful systems. What remedies, prayers, or folk medicines were used? We'll explore how these ancient rules had very modern consequences for the human body, affecting everything from disease transmission to life expectancy. And what about the mind-body connection? Today we talk about psychosomatic illness, but for centuries, the idea that your spiritual state could manifest as physical sickness was just a given. Look at how this worldview shaped the patient experience and the very evolution of medical science, creating a fascinating interplay between the priest and the physician. It extended to their very bones, their blood, their entire physical existence. The story of the past is written not just in texts and laws, but on the human body itself. Thanks so much for joining me on this exploration today. If you found this topic as fascinating as I do, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time. But the reality of their daily lives, especially their intimate lives, was way more complicated than you might think.